Economic Affairs Secretary AJAY SETH will be the new Finance Secretary after Tuhin Kanta Pandey was appointed SEBI Chair last month. Remember, he took over on the 1st of March. And Tuhin Kanta Pandey, the new SEBI, new proposals. What do these include? These include tighter norms for FPIs, better compliance measures for alternate investment funds, as well as allowing investment advisors to charge 1-year fee upfront. These emerge as major decisions at the first SEBI board meeting by the new SEBI chair. But that's not all. After conflict of interest issues emerged during Madhvi Puri Bush's tenure as SEBI chair, now an external panel to monitor SEBI board members, says the new SEBI chief. Meanwhile, it was a rocking Monday on the Lal Street. Stock market bounce wipes out year-to-date losses. Sensex kisses 78,000 mark intraday. Will the momentum continue today? We'll find out as the markets open at 9:15 a.m. The Reserve Bank of India pushes for priority sector lending across housing and green energy. We decode what this means. Quick commerce platform Swiggy to now deliver smartphones across 10 cities. Do you live in any of these cities? Well, find out on the show. Travel booking startup EASEMYTRIP enters the aviation market, picks up 49% stake in Big Charter. Staying with the aviation space, there are 133 planes that are grounded in India's domestic civil aviation sector, says the Minister of State. Chinese EV maker BYD races ahead of Tesla, records over $1 billion in sales in the year 2024. Let's start with the top story that we're tracking for you this morning. Senior bureaucrat AJAY SETH is designated as the new Finance Secretary according to an official order. SETH is a 1987 batch IAS officer of the Karnataka cadre. He's currently the Secretary of the Department of Economic Affairs. And the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet has approved designating SETH as the Finance Secretary, and this was stated in the order issued by the Personnel Ministry. The vacancy was necessitated following the appointment of Tuhin Kanta Pandey as the chairman of SEBI last month. Now, as per the convention, the senior-most secretary in the Union's Finance Ministry is designated as the Finance Secretary. Well, markets regulator SEBI's board yesterday approved a proposal to double the investment threshold for granular disclosures by foreign portfolio investors to 50,000 crore rupees. Now, this is aimed at addressing the changing market dynamics without altering the concentration criteria, which remains unchanged. Now, at present, certain FPIs with equity assets under management or AUM exceeding 25,000 crore rupees are required to provide granular details of their investors or stakeholders on a look-through basis. This was the first board meeting under the newly appointed SEBI chairman Tuhin Kanta Pandey. Pandey's first board meeting also came up with additional changes, not least the approval for financial advisors to charge an upfront fee for a whole year. Now, under the existing rules, investment advisors can charge fees in advance for up to 2 quarters if agreed upon by the investment advisor and the client, while in the case of research analysts, it was only for 1 quarter. Now, SEBI said that regulations were earlier rationalized to address many concerns of the industry. Most of the changes have been welcomed by them. However, concerns remained on some of the fee-related provisions which restricted collection of advance fees by 2 to 6 months or in some cases even 3 months of advance fee. Now, the SEBI chair further clarified that the compliance requirements related to fee limits, payment modes, refunds and brokerage fees will only be applicable to individual and Hindu undivided families clients. The SEBI chair also made a few tweakings to the AIF or the Alternate Investment Funds category. Now, to give a fillip to the issuance of as well as trading in lesser related debt securities, SEBI said that investments of Category 2 alternate investment funds or AIFs in listed debt securities which are rated A or below A will be treated as akin to investments in unlisted securities, and this is for the purpose of compliance with the minimum investment conditions in unlisted securities. Now, that's not all that came out of the first SEBI board meeting and the first media address by Tuhin Kanta Pandey yesterday. Upping people's trust in the capital markets regulator seemed to be the theme at the first meeting of the SEBI chair. Now, the SEBI board will form a panel of external experts to review rules on managing and better disclosing conflict of interest for its senior leadership, and this includes the SEBI chairperson as well. Now, this decision to review provisions for its members to disclose conflict of interest comes months after former head Butch was accused of holding back on investigations against Adani Group because of conflict of interest. Now, underlining that he wants people to feel that things are fine now and the leadership has got nothing to hide, Pandey pointed to the core aspect of trust. Now, Madhvi Puri Butch, his predecessor, who demitted office at the end of February, had come under attack last year from the now shuttered Hindenburg Research, which alleged that she and her husband had hidden holdings in Bermuda and Mauritius, entities also drawn upon by the older brother of Adani Group founder Gautam Adani, which possibly held the agency back from investigating fraud charges against the powerful Adani conglomerate. Both Butch and Adani Group had denied all allegations. Now, Pandey, who revived the practice of holding press conference and board decisions, which was stopped after the Hindenburg allegation, said it is not so that SEBI does not have provisions or conflicts of interest, and added that the panel will come out with a detailed framework to deal with the issue by forming a high-level committee to review and make recommendations on the code of conduct of SEBI board members, and this includes the SEBI chair as well. Now, Pandey mentioned that the committee will be formed soon once the members provide their consent, and emphasized that the panel will be constituted independently from SEBI, with the market regulator providing only secretarial support. Now, who will comprise this panel? Well, this panel will comprise eminent persons and experts with relevant background and experience in constitutional or statutory or regulatory bodies. This also includes government, public sector, as well as private sector, as well as the world of academia. And let's move on from the market regulator now to the banking regulator. The Reserve Bank of India has issued revised guidelines on PSL or priority sector lending, and this to facilitate better targeting of bank credit to the priority sectors of the economy. So what are these new guidelines? Well, we'll tell you all about those, but remember, the new guidelines will come into effect from April 1st, 2025. There are major changes in the new norms, and these include the enhancement of several loan limits, including housing loans for enhanced PSL coverage, and the broadening of the purpose based on which loans may be classified under renewable energy, along with the removal of the existing cap on loans by UCBs to individual women beneficiaries. Now, bank loans to the housing sector for priority sector classification have been prescribed in 3 categories. Now, these 3 categories include one category, the first category of 50 lakh rupees. Now, this 50 lakh rupees is applicable for centers with a population of 50 lakh and more number of residents. The next category is the PSL2 category for housing loan, which is 45 lakh rupees. And this is applicable to centers with a population of 10 lakh residents or below, but not exceeding 50 lakh. Now, there's a third category, and this third category for PSL is the 35 lakh rupees category, and this is applicable to centers with a population below 10 lakh residents. Now, the maximum cost of dwelling units too has been specified in each case. Now, on the renewable energy front, the guidelines said that bank loans up to a limit of 35 crore rupees to borrowers for renewable energy-based power generators and for renewable energy-based public utilities will be eligible for priority sector classification. Now, for individual households, the loan limit will be 10 lakh rupees per borrower. The categories under the priorities sector include agriculture, MSME, export credit, education, housing, social infrastructure, as well as renewable energy. And finally, yesterday offered some good news for Indian traders and investors, because the Indian stock markets have erased the year-to-date losses, all the losses of this year, calendar year 2025. And this was boosted by signs of increased government spending and monetary easing. The benchmark NSE Nifty 50 surged as much as 1.3% yesterday, marking its 6th day of consecutive gains, the longest winning streak since September last year. Remember, September is when markets had reached their all-time high. Well, it's not just the NSE Nifty 50, even the BSE Sensex rallied over 1,000 points, closing at a 6-week high. Now, analysts are attributing this recovery to a combination of multiple factors, and these include, number one, the return of foreign investors. Then there is the attractive valuation after recent corrections and hopes of a lower interest rate, as the Monetary Policy Committee meeting is scheduled for early next month. Now, on the global front, the US Federal Reserve's signal of 2 possible rate cuts has further boosted investor confidence, while a softer dollar and lower US bond yields have added to the positive sentiment for the Indian stock markets. Now remember, after facing a sharp 16% correction from its September high, the Nifty has now rebounded 7% from its March lows. So far in March, the Sensex has gained over 4,700 points, which is a 6.5% jump. Now, many experts believe that liquidity measures by the RBI, in addition with an improving global market outlook, have all driven this rally that we are seeing. Now, foreign investors are returning and domestic macroeconomic conditions are also seemingly improving. So, analysts suggest that market momentum could continue. However, they caution that external factors such as global trade uncertainties and upcoming economic data releases will remain key drivers in the days ahead. Well, how does the market story hold for this trading day Tuesday is something that we will bring to you later. But let's now move on to another story that we're tracking to you this morning, and this comes by way of the quick commerce platform Swiggy. And Swiggy Instamart is making a big move, and this move is into the smartphone market. Well, the quick commerce platform announced that it will now deliver smartphones in 10 major cities. And do you live in one of these 10 cities? Well, find out. These cities where smartphones will be delivered by Swiggy Instamart include Bengaluru. It also includes India's capital Delhi, financial capital Mumbai, Chennai and Hyderabad. Well, customers can order devices including the iPhone 16e, Samsung M35, OnePlus Nord CE and the Redmi 14C, with more options expected to follow soon. Well, this marks a major move for quick commerce platforms, which are rapidly expanding beyond groceries and essentials. Swiggy Instamart's rivals Blinkit and Zepto have also ventured into electronics, fashion and beauty products. Swiggy's Instamart CEO Amitesh Jha said that the move is aimed at giving customers exactly what they want, whether it's an urgent replacement or a long-awaited upgrade. Remember, the company has been aggressively expanding and now operates in 100 cities across India. With demand for 10-minute deliveries rising, especially in smaller towns, Swiggy has already set up 800 dark stores in 84 cities. Now, to attract buyers, Instamart is offering a 5% discount on smartphone purchases above 11,499 rupees for ICICI Bank credit card users. But while its revenue climbed to nearly 4,000 crore rupees in the last quarter, losses have also widened to almost 800 crore rupees. Meanwhile, as the quick commerce sector is booming in India, a recent Morgan Stanley report estimated that the market could grow to as much as $55 billion by 2030. Well, in a major move to expand its services, the travel aggregator EASEMYTRIP, one of India's leading online travel agencies, has announced its entry into the charter aviation sector. The company has acquired a 49% stake in Gurugram-based Big Charter Private Limited, marking its foray into private aviation. Remember, EASEMYTRIP was also slated to be one of the front runners in the acquisition of Go First after it filed for dissolution. Well, the decision was made after the EASEMYTRIP board met on March 24th, giving an in-principle approval for the investment. However, the deal still awaits final clearance from the company's board and necessary regulatory approvals. Well, alongside its charter aviation investment, EASEMYTRIP is strengthening its global footprint with fresh capital infusion into the international subsidies. The board approved an investment of 1,000 Brazilian reals into the Brazil-based subsidiary to boost share capital and support expansion in South America. Additionally, EASEMYTRIP is allocating 50,000 reals into its Saudi subsidiary to capitalize on the growing travel market there. In the US, the company is investing $10,000 into its fully owned subsidiary to reinforce its presence in North America. And staying with the aviation space, well, a total of 133 aircraft, that's right, 133 aircraft are grounded in India. And this 133 is out of a total fleet size of 813 aircraft. And these are across various domestic airlines. This number was announced in Parliament. In fact, Parliament was informed about this statement yesterday. Minister of State for Civil Aviation Muralidhar Mohal, in a written reply to the Rajya Sabha, also said that of the remaining 680 operational aircraft, as many as 319 belong to Indigo, while 198 planes are in the fleet of Air India and 101 with Air India Express. The rest of the planes are spread across other airlines. He also said that India orders for a total of as many as 1,359 new aircraft in the previous 2 years, of which 999 new aircraft orders were placed in 2023 and 360 new orders in 2024. As of now, 680 aircraft are operational for passenger travel and 133 are grounded, spread across various airlines. Now, regarding regulators and regulations for maximum permissible age for an aircraft, the minister said that the DGCA, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, has not prescribed guidelines specifying the life of an aircraft to fly in India. Aircraft are considered airworthy provided the maintenance is as per approved schedule laid down by the manufacturer. Aircraft registered in India may operate as long as type certificate is valid to the type of aircraft and the aircraft is under production or maintenance support provided by the manufacturer for a continuous operation of the aircraft. The aircraft may be withdrawn from operation by an operator in case it becomes beyond economic repair or is permanently withdrawn from use due to any reason such as spares not available. Well, with that, let's slip into a short break right here on Morning Brief at 9. But when we come back, on the other side, we'll bring you all the market action as markets open this Tuesday morning. You're watching Morning Brief at 9.
You work too hard. Work smart like me.
Why? Won a lottery, is it?
You can say so. I'm investing in a great scheme in the share market. High returns guaranteed.
Your high returns aren't Karan Arjun for them to definitely come to you.
Meaning?
Dad, there's risk involved in the share market. Nobody can promise guaranteed high returns. It's illegal to do so.
Really?
Yeah.
सोच कर, समझ कर, invest कर.
News 9 Indian Tigers and Tigresses. The ultimate hunt for India's future football stars. A vision to make India a footballing powerhouse. The journey of young champions begins. The journey kicked off in Delhi with international football legends and young dreamers.
The winner is first born in the mind, and then you have to have an intent to win. Indians want to win.
8 scouting camps, 50,000 registrations, 10,000 selected, only 32 remain. a true search for India's best. From the heart of India's villages to the grand stage of Europe, their journey is nothing short of extraordinary. With Riespo and our partners in Austria, these young talents will train under the best European coaches, preparing for the global stage.
First of all, he scored a goal.
4 of these players will get the golden opportunity to visit VfB Stuttgart, our official partner, and train under Bundesliga standards. An honor like no other, the chance to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The journey of a lifetime begins March 30th.
$2.5 lakh strong legacy and counting. Join the big league with the XUV 700 with celebratory offers up to rupees 75,000.
What does it take to be the greatest in the world? There is one thing which truly sets you apart. Your inner strength. Sojiri TMT Reebok, true inner strength.
I know that you and I, we are dreamers.
For an India that's chasing its dreams, this is the drive of your dreams. Introducing the all-new Skoda Kailak. Own your dream.
Skoda.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9 right here on News 9. And well, let's bring you the mood check this Tuesday morning as the stock markets have just opened a few minutes back. And remember, yesterday was the landmark day when the Nifty 50 had increased and upped its game by percent, and well, the action is looking good this morning as well. Nifty 50 is up almost 0.4 of a percentage point, and so is the story with the Sensex. Well, Sensex had touched the 78,000 mark yesterday, but the markets closed just a little shy of 78,000. Well, this morning a good 300-point rally on the Sensex, and the Sensex is squarely above 78,000 right now at 78,300. We are also seeing great momentum in the small cap and mid cap space this morning. Both the indices are up almost 0.6% or so in early trade. Remember, it's just been a few minutes, so the markets could swing either way, but right now the momentum is holding and the green shoots in the markets are looking pretty good. Remember, all the losses that investors incurred in the month of, starting from the 1st of Jan, in fact, all through the months of Jan, Feb and March have been wiped out, and looks like the markets are not happy with just year-to-date losses being wiped off. And with the increase that we are seeing on the main indices this morning, it seems like there is a case that these extension of wiping out of losses could run even into months of December or so. Well, let's hope this momentum continues. But first up, let's look at the Nifty 50 heat map this morning and see what is the action that we are seeing here. Well, fantastic action coming in from the IT pack. Remember, the US dollar has been softening, and this is obviously making the US bond yields less attractive. At the same time, with the softening US dollar, India's services, the IT sector, is likely to gain more profits, and that is something which is reflecting in the markets this morning. TCS, Nifty, TCS and Infosys both up about 1.5 percentage points this morning. Remember, this was one of the sectors that was a laggard. It was dragging, especially as we saw action in the US, and with the Nasdaq faltering, we had seen a direct knock-on effect on India's IT sector. But that story seems to be of the past, and as we're seeing this morning, the Nifty IT pack is definitely looking good. In addition to that, not great news coming from the energy side, and this is Reliance, ONGC, Coal India. Well, of course, there are certain news triggers which are driving this, and not least of these being US tariffs on Venezuelan oil as well as on Indian oil. India's oil, refined oil exports to the US coming under pressure and under threat by US President Donald Trump, and that is weighing down negatively on Reliance as well as other energy stocks this morning. So this is the Nifty 50 action for you, and markets at 9:20 a.m. registering healthy gains with the Sensex very comfortably above 78,000 points and Nifty 50 now nearing the 23,800 mark. And from the markets, let's move on to brands. Well, every brand tells a story and they are the storytellers. These are the brand wallas. An exciting new series has been launched right here on News 9, where Mercedes India chief Mr. Santosh Iyer is in a candid chat with News 9's executive editor Krishna Kumar. What does Santosh Iyer love the most about his job, and what is the one thing that he doesn't love at all about his job? Well, take a look at this.
One thing about your job, Santosh, that you just absolutely love doing. That's what you wake up every morning and go to office for. What would that be?
See, it's not the regular work day. Let me say that I can test and I can drive some of our cars of the future and see the cars as well of the future. In March, I'm again in Stuttgart. It's just like I'm waiting for something nice in my life to happen, because, you know, when you go to these places, when you look at the future of cars, I think you have to be privileged enough to see the future that's coming in.
Actually, I shouldn't have asked this question to you. Everybody would be like, how do I get this guy's job? Because he gets to drive the first Mercedes for the first hand. So, you know, actually that question in hindsight was actually redundant. Let me ask you the other question then. What is the one thing about your job that you hate the most? I know hate is a big word, okay, that you detest the most. The one thing that you don't look forward to in your daily work day or just your job per se.
You know, saying no is generally difficult, but saying no to customers is even more difficult. And they come from early delivery of cars. And they say, you are the CEO of Mercedes-Benz and their friends and family sometimes. You can't get me the car. I said, come on, we have some process. Second, discount. Come on, get something. I said, you're buying Mercedes-Benz. No, but something more. No, something more. And I have to say no, because our model is very transparent. It's omni-channel. It's also online available. And we have certain processes as a large multinational. But many of them fail to understand, no, but you still are CEO of the company, can't give me something. And that's something, you know, saying no to all, and they just feel, is it why can't be there? Or even deliveries, you know, can't I get this car early? Except we are a compliant organization as it. So this is the difficult part, is saying the no and explaining to them a bit more.
Talk to us about what is Mercedes-Benz's social media strategy. Is there an overall social media strategy in terms of brand Mercedes? And more importantly, how does a brand like Mercedes leverage social media?
You know, firstly, there are guide rails very clearly, because we need to be authentic. We have to be very careful on social media as well, because as a brand which is very valuable, trusted, desirable, generally there's always an attack on the brand as well. So anything not in the right tonality, voice, also the entire space needs to be really. So there's a lot of attention to what we can post, what we can say. We have to be sensitive on these topics. But I think today it's more content, and we need to look at more natural content. And then if something is working, we start putting a bit more money behind it. Then going the other way around, you put money and then see whether it works or not. So again, it's highly bespoke today, I would say, marketing. Then a strategy which is on a PowerPoint, which you say you can use it for every product and say.
So do you think that's been the big shift in the world of marketing? And there's some
luxury marketing, for sure. Because I think here customer profile segmentation is much more different, and ability of normal media may be limited. So we have to use it as a combination. Retail campaigns, I need print, I need TV. But when I look at, say, brand campaigns, then it's a different mix altogether.
Okay. Santosh, I have to ask you this. What is your take on the India consumption story? We all know that for the Indian economy's growth to boom going forward, the India consumption story has to boom. Indians have to go out there, spend on everything from cars to luxury cars to movie tickets to shopping in malls. Tell us, how strong or weak do you think the India consumption story is at this stage? Lots of questions being raised on car sales being tepid, all these inventories piling up, and etc. etc.
Firstly, automotive as a category is a sentiment-driven purchase. Luxury more, but in general also, because there is a tendency to postpone purchases in automotive. On the other side, we also have seen that there was inflation, there was a bit of lesser capital expenditure, and I think this is the table is again turning, the corner is changing. We can see for Mercedes-Benz, we had the best ever year. Last year, we grew at 12% plus. The second half of the year, where the entire automotive industry, as you said, was tepid, we grew at 16%. So I think if you have the right product, the right pricing strategy, the right customer target segment, the growth should continue. But we are again not going with a volume-driven growth because that's dangerous. You have to see, because with top-end cars, then you do crazy things. So it's better that you be more focused on customer. I think if you see the penetration of cars, only 24 people driving out of 1,000 people having a car compared to the 500 in Germany, etc. So I think there's a lot of runway left. It depends, of course, on the fundamental core economic growth and sentiments both. It's a sentiment-driven economy, and as the sentiments come back with the geopolitics and also with what the government is trying to do, I think the consumption story will continue.
Well, of course, that is the brand Wallas, and you can catch this series on News9 every Saturday and Sunday at 4:30 p.m. But well, for now, let's slip into some global headlines that we're tracking for you this morning. US President Donald Trump threatens to impose 25% tariff on nations purchasing Venezuelan oil, warns of trade consequences for India and global buyers. Top Trump officials mistakenly leaked US war plans in a messaging group that included a journalist before strikes on Yemen Houthis, sparking national security concerns. Trump says he had no involvement in the security blunder. US Second Lady Usha Vance to lead US delegation to Greenland amid Trump's renewed push for annexation, sparking concerns from Denmark and local government. Wall Street surges as Trump signals tariff flexibility, boosting tech stocks like Tesla and Nvidia, while crypto stocks rally on Bitcoin gains. Hyundai Motor Group announces $20 billion US investment, including $5 billion Louisiana steel plant amid Trump's tariff threats. And in big news coming in, Chinese EV giant BYD's revenue surpasses $100 billion as the Chinese EV giant overtakes Tesla, posts record $2.1 billion profit and expands global reach with a potential new plant in Germany. Eurozone business activity expands at fastest pace in 7 months as factory slowdown improves, but services sector loses momentum. Japan's factory activity drops at fastest pace in a year and new orders decline, adding to economic concerns. South Korea's constitutional court reinstates Prime Minister Han Duck-soo as acting president, cancelling impeachment amid political turmoil and rising trade tensions with the US. All these stories on the other side. You're watching Morning Brief at 9.
$2.5 lakh strong legacy and counting. Join the big league with the XUV 700 with celebratory offers up to rupees 75,000.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Every brand tells a story. And they are the storytellers, the Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brand Wallas.
You are watching Morning Brief at 9. Let's look at the global stories that we're tracking for you this Tuesday morning. Well, even as India already faces the threat of reciprocal tariffs from US President Donald Trump, the Republican leader has now escalated his trade stance. Trump announced a 25% secondary tariff on any country purchasing oil and gas from Venezuela on Monday. The move, set to take effect again on April 2nd, is aimed at penalizing Venezuela, which Trump accused of deliberately sending criminals and gang members, including those from a group designated as a foreign terrorist organization, into the United States. This decision could have serious consequences for India and companies like Mukesh Ambani's Reliance Industries, which only recently resumed crude oil imports from Venezuela after Washington eased sanctions on the Latin American nation in late 2023. While accusing Venezuela of acting purposefully and deceitfully in a post on Truth Social, Trump said that any country buying Venezuelan oil or gas will face a steep 25% tariff on trade with the United States. Well, in a major security lapse, top Trump administration officials mistakenly disclosed war plans in an encrypted messaging group that included a journalist just hours before the US launched strikes against Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis. According to a report, the blunder occurred on March 13th when the magazine's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, was unexpectedly added to a Signal chat group named Houthi PC Small Group. The group allegedly included senior officials such as National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and even accounts appearing to belong to Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and the CIA Director. Well, Goldberg's report claims that Hegseth shared sensitive operational details, including attack targets, weapon deployment, and sequencing just hours before President Donald Trump ordered military strikes on March 15th. The National Security Council has since acknowledged that the chat group appeared to be authentic. Democratic lawmakers have slammed the disclosure as a breach of U.S. national security, demanding a congressional investigation into how such classified details were recklessly shared on a messaging app. Meanwhile, addressing the media at the White House, President Donald Trump has said that he had no involvement in the security blunder. Listen in.
Mr. President, the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time. Anybody else?
Staying with the US, a US delegation led by US Second Lady Usha Vance is set to visit Greenland this week, where they will tour an American military base and even watch a dog sled race. The visit comes as President Donald Trump intensifies his push to annex the strategic Arctic island, which remains a semi-autonomous territory under Denmark.
U.S. Second Lady Usha Vance will lead a delegation to Greenland this week to visit an American military base and watch a dog sled race. The trip comes as President Donald Trump escalates his campaign to annex the strategic Arctic island. The delegation includes White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Energy Secretary Chris Wright. The pair plan to visit the Patuxent U.S. military space base on the island's northwest coast, where they will be briefed by service members. They will then join Vance to visit historical sites and attend the national dog sled race. Spokesman for the White House National Security Council, Brian Hughes, said the U.S. team is, quote, confident that this visit presents an opportunity to build on partnerships that respects Greenland's self-determination and advances economic cooperation. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said in a written comment reacting to news of the visit that, quote, this is something we take seriously. The Greenlandic government did not reply to requests for comment. Trump has made U.S. annexation of the vast mineral-rich island a major talking point during his second term. Just last week, he told NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte that U.S. control of Greenland is necessary to enhance international security. The governments of both Greenland and Denmark have voiced opposition to the move. Opinion polls suggest that most Greenlanders oppose joining the U.S., although a majority favor eventual independence from Denmark.
And moving on to some business news from the US. Well, Wall Street rallied on Monday with the S&P 500 surging to a two-week high, driven by gains in Nvidia and Tesla. The boost came as President Donald Trump indicated a softer stance on tariffs, suggesting that not all threatened tariffs would take effect on April 2nd. More details in this report.
Wall Street's main indexes ended sharply higher on Monday, with the Dow gaining about 1.4%, the S&P 500 climbing 1.75%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq soaring more than 2.25%. President Trump on Monday indicated that not all of his threatened tariffs would be imposed on April 2nd, a move Wall Street took as a sign of flexibility on the matter that has roiled markets for weeks. Robert Conzo is CEO and Managing Director of the Wealth Alliance.
Once again, more discussion about tariffs. Maybe we'll pull some back. Maybe some will be temporary. Maybe. This is starting to become a little bit of an old story with these tariffs kind of coming and going. And you actually saw Fed Chairman Powell speak last week, which was pretty interesting, which I think led a little bit of, I want to say, benign to upbeat flavor in the market. He talked about certain things related to tariffs. Number one, he used the dreaded word, transitory, which killed them the first time. He brought it back, meaning, hey, negative effect of these tariffs could be short-lived, producers get charged more, they charge the consumer more, inflationary, but a one-time shot, right? So that was perceived as good.
Investors scooped up battered technology shares, with Nvidia rallying over 3% and advanced micro devices jumping roughly 7%. Shares of Tesla surged almost 12% in its biggest one-day gain since early November, recovering some of its recent steep decline. And crypto stocks rallied with a 4% rise in Bitcoin prices, with MicroStrategy surging more than 10% and Coinbase adding almost 7%.
Well, South Korea's Hyundai Motor Group has unveiled a massive $20 billion investment plan in the United States, with a key focus on a new $5 billion steel plant in Louisiana. The announcement made at the White House on Monday comes as President Donald Trump pushes for increased U.S. manufacturing and threatens new tariffs on trade partners, including South Korea. The Louisiana governor, Landry, who met with Hyundai executives in Seoul last October, joined Hyundai chairman Yoo-Sun Chung for the event. While Hyundai had previously promised major U.S. investments, questions remain about whether this latest announcement includes earlier commitments.
$1.8 billion investment in American manufacturing. In particular, Hyundai will be building a steel plant in Louisiana, which will produce more than 2.7 million metric tons of steel a year, creating more than 1,400 jobs for American steelworkers. And then there'll be major expansion after that. Hyundai Steel President Soo Gang-hyun. Thank you very much, President. That's big stuff. This will be Hyundai's first ever steel mill in the United States, one of the largest companies in the world, by the way, supplying steel for its auto parts and auto plants in Alabama and Georgia, which will soon produce more than 1 million American-made cars every single year. The cars are coming into this country at levels never seen before. We have other great companies coming in, and we have some that are going to be staying here and very much. The company will also be massively increasing its auto manufacturing in Georgia and investing billions of dollars in advanced American.
So Hyundai Motor entered the U.S. 1986. Since then, we have invested over $20 billion and now support more than 570,000 American jobs across all 50 states. Today, I'm pleased to announce an additional $21 billion in a new investment over the next 4 years, our largest U.S. invest ever.
Now staying with the auto space, Chinese EV giant BYD is riding high, reporting a record net profit of $2.1 billion in the fourth quarter of 2024. That's a 73% jump from the previous year. The company saw its annual sales revenue surge past $100 billion, overtaking rival Tesla as it aggressively expands overseas. Well, BYD's push into Europe comes at a time when Tesla is facing challenges in the region, with sales dipping amid CEO Elon Musk's controversial political stances. Take a look.
Chinese electric vehicle maker BYD said Monday its net profit jumped 73% in the fourth quarter of 2024 to a record $2.1 billion. The car company continues to benefit from lower prices and higher sales than rivals. Revenue rose nearly 53% according to a stock market filing. For all of 2024, profit climbed 34% to $5.6 billion. BYD shares in Hong Kong have risen by 51% year to date and are currently slightly off an all-time high reached last week. The Chinese EV champion overtook Volkswagen to lead China's car sales in 2024. It has continued to roll out cheaper models, contributing to the deepening of a brutal two-year price war in the world's largest auto market. BYD has also roiled the market in recent weeks by unveiling a new supercharging EV technology platform and announcing that it will offer smart driving features on most of its lineup at no extra charge. The Warren Buffett-backed automaker said earlier this month it had raised about $5.6 billion in a primary share sale that was increased in size, with proceeds to be invested in research and development and expanding overseas, among other purposes. Reuters has reported that BYD is considering Germany for a possible third international plant in Europe. Its overseas shipments jumped 71.9% last year to make up 10% of overall car sales.
All right, well, the Eurozone business activity expanded at its fastest pace in 7 months in the month of March, driven by signs of recovery in the manufacturing sector, even as growth in services slowed down. A key survey showed that the long slump in manufacturing improved, helping the economy grow. The Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI, edged up to 50.4 this month from February's 50.2, showing modest expansion.
Eurozone business activity grew at its fastest pace in 7 months in March, although growth stayed weak. The data was revealed Monday in the key Purchasing Managers Index, which rose to its highest since August. The key survey showed the bloc's long-running manufacturing downturn eased, but services growth slowed. The PMI rose to 50.4 this month from February's 50.2. It has stayed above the 50 mark, separating growth from contraction since the start of the year. AJ Bell's Russ Mould.
The DAX is at an all-time high, even though nothing but bearish things have been said about the German economy for the last 2 years. There are clearly great expectations, and at least these numbers do give some hope. European manufacturing PMI at a 26-month high, for example. Output is accelerating. Expectations seem to be going down.
Growth and activity was still weak, and the index was below analyst projections. The block's dominant services industry fell to 50.4 from last month's 50.6, while a near 3-year-long contraction in manufacturing eased to a 2-year high of 48.7. Powerhouse Germany also saw manufacturing production rise for the first time in that helped business activity there expand at its sharpest pace in 10 months. But France saw activity contract for a 7th consecutive month. Business confidence fell to its lowest level in close to 5 years. Analysts believe the improving business climate in the Eurozone overall could gain further momentum in the coming months. It plans for a spending splurge in infrastructure and defence, particularly in Germany. That has raised optimism for a turnaround in Europe's economic fortunes.
Well, moving on to Asia now. Japan's factory activity shrank at the fastest rate in a year this March, signaling potential trouble for the economy. Raising concerns, a private survey showed decline in both production and new orders. The closely watched PMI dropped to 48.3 from 49 in the previous month, staying below the 50 mark that separates growth from contraction. Manufacturers pointed to rising costs, labor shortages and instability over global trade tensions as key challenges.
A manufacturing slowdown is sapping hopes for Japan's economy. Figures out Monday showed factory activity falling at its fastest pace in a year. The closely watched Purchasing Managers Index for Manufacturing from AU Jibun Bank fell to 48.3 from 49 previously. That's well below the key 50-point mark that would indicate rising activity. The data pointed to declines in production and new orders. Firms cited worries including rising costs, labour shortages and uncertainty over mounting global trade tensions. Inflationary pressures remained high, with both input costs and selling prices still on an upward trend. However, companies did increase employment for a fourth straight month. The service sector, which had been a bright spot, also lost momentum, with business activity contracting for the first time in 5 months. The headline figure for the sector sank to 49.5 in March, way down on the previous month's 53.7. Numbers out last week showed shoppers are battling soaring prices for everyday goods, with the cost of rice up more than 80% year on year. Analysts say the rising inflationary pressures increase the chances of more rate hikes by the Bank of Japan over the coming months.
And finally, South Korea's Constitutional Court has reinstated Prime Minister Han Duck-soo as acting president, overturning his impeachment. Remember, Han had only held the position for 2 weeks before being suspended. Speaking after the court's decision, he pledged to focus on guiding South Korea's economy through growing global challenges, particularly the threat of US tariffs under President Donald Trump's trade policies. Listen in.
In the latest turn in South Korea's political turmoil, the country's constitutional court reinstated Prime Minister Han Duck-soo as acting president on Monday. He had taken over as acting leader from President Yoon Suk-yeol, who was impeached over briefly imposing martial law in December. Han only lasted 2 weeks in the job before he himself was impeached and suspended. Speaking after the court's dismissal, Han turned to the threat of potential tariffs on South Korea from US President Donald Trump.
저는 대통령 권한대행으로서
As acting president, I will put all my efforts to maintain a stable administration in accordance with the Constitution and laws, and I will use every wisdom and ability to securing Korea's national interests amid the trade war that has already become a reality.
쏟아붓겠습니다.
The ruling immediately returns Han to power after months of political chaos in the country. He thanked the court for its wise decision and the cabinet for their hard work during his suspension. Yoon's martial law declaration plunged the key US military ally into its greatest political crisis in decades. It led to a leadership vacuum amid spiraling impeachments, resignations, and criminal indictments for a range of top officials. Han's impeachment came after clashing with the opposition-led parliament. In the coming days, the Constitutional Court is expected to make a decision on Yoon's impeachment, and if he's removed, an election will be held within 60 days. In the months since Yoon declared martial law, South Korea has been bracing for the potential impact from a range of Trump tariffs. Earlier this month, Trump singled out South Korea for applying high tariffs on US exports. It's already been slapped with duties on steel and aluminum and has been seeking an exemption from the reciprocal US levies set to come next month.
Well, that's all we have for you on this of Morning Brief at 9. Thank you so much for watching, but news continues right here, so stay tuned to News 9.